Hey guys, my name is Brian, and this is what I'm thinking. Today I'm going to talk about something that's really new to almost everybody. Flutter. Now Flutter is a new SDK put out by Google, and it was released way back in May of 2017, but its most recent stable version, version 1.0, was put out in December of 2018, December 4th, I believe. This is when Google put out their big live event and kind of showed everybody, hey, listen, this is what we've been building over this past God knows how long. It has a C and a C++ engine, which, let's be completely honest, I'm not really sure what that is, but I know it's really strong, and the people who know a lot about things tell me that that's really good. So that's good. What I do know is that the front end, which is what I deal with, is written in Dart. Now Dart is something I've never seen before, before Flutter, but it does have a lot of resemblances to JavaScript. It just has a little bit different naming conventions. So if you're used to React or React Native, components are called widgets in Dart. Declaring functions is a little bit different. But you know, keep in mind, one of the best things about Flutter is that it's one code base, right? It's a way to write mobile app code once. And then when you click build and deploy, it goes two different native code bases, iOS and Android, right? So back in the day, a year ago, if you wanted to build an iOS app and an Android app, you'd have to write those things twice. You'd have to get two different developers, two different code bases, deploy all at the same time. It was a big thing. Now you write it once and it does it for you. This is like a huge step forward, and it's practically unheard of until now. Now, as a designer, I'm most interested in a couple of things that comes with this. Number one, it comes out of the box with Google Material UI as a design system. You import it just like React, and you have access to every single Material UI widget that you could want, a designed widget, right? This is something that you can use and build and grow and modify to whatever you need, right? But out of the box, it comes with the design system already built in, which means much better design for all these new apps that are coming out, right? And the second thing that it has is what's called a hot reload. So if you're used to React, React had this as well, but now through the emulator, whether it's on your phone, on your device, or through an emulator that's on the screen, and you save something, it updates automatically on the UI. You don't need to rebuild, you don't need to redo anything. You just need to save it, and it rebuilds, and it shows you on the screen. It's pretty awesome. So now I want to jump into a little bit of code and show you just how quickly I can build a UI screen with Flutter using some material widgets and a couple other small things. All right, so we're going to jump into a little bit of code here. So right here on the right-hand side, I have my emulator. This is an iPhone XR, I believe, or 10R. And on the left-hand side, you'll see this is our main Dart file, right? So right here, this is saying that this is the root of my application. We're saying this is a material app, and then the home is actually pointing to this widget here, right? This is the title. And this widget is right here, and it's grabbing a state, and it's creating a state for this, right? And it's saying, hey, override it, and let's run this, right? So this is what is actually being run. So just like in JavaScript, we return something, right? In this case, we're returning a scaffolding widget, and that is how you outline your UI and how things are actually going to flow. So inside a scaffold, you have different things that you can add in, and I'm going to show you how quick and easy this can be. For everyone that's curious, I'm using VS Code at the moment. Really, really great with Flutter, as you'll see here. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit control and spacebar, and it's going to give me all of the properties for the scaffolding, right? So right off the bat, I'm going to say, I need an app bar, right? So I'm going to come in, and under app bar, I'm going to say, well, what do you want to put in that space on the scaffold? And I'm going to say, I want an app bar, right? So what do we want in this app bar? Well, assuming we'd want a title,
And at the top of that, we're going to put some sort of text. And in that text, we're going to say, what's Brian thinking? Right? Okay, great. So now we got a title. And boom, hot reload. Oh my God, look at that. We have an app bar. 2 lines of code. I don't know how to make it any more easy. Okay, so let's just say maybe you want a menu button, right? In the top left-hand corner. So let's do that. So under app bar, you have all these other different options. And to put one in the front, if you think about it left to right, right? In the beginning, you're going to use a leading property. And under leading, you might put on something like, let's just say it's an icon button, right? Now, these are all widgets that are built in to Material, built into Flutter. All we had to do was just import package Flutter Material Dart, and now we have all those widgets. So now I can utilize everything that you'll find in the Flutter docs, which I'm going to put in the description below. And you can just utilize every single one that you want. It gives you all the properties, some that are required, some that are not. So now we're going to add this leading icon button, right? And inside this icon, we're going to have an icon. And with that, so icon colon is defining the property for icon. And now we're going to say, all right, well, in that space for an icon, we're going to put an icon. And that icon is going to be menu, like that, right? And then with an icon button, if you hover over it, you'll see that it requires right here on pressed, right? So when you have an on pressed requirement for icon button, we don't have any function set up to actually execute anything when it's on press. So we're just gonna say on pressed, give it some friends, and then we're gonna end it with some closing brackets. That way we'll just on press, it'll do nothing, right? So let's save that, hot reload, menu button. So now let's just say we want some stuff on the right hand side, right? So we're going to add some things called actions. This is all, I'm not just making this stuff up. This is super easy to do, and it's all very, very well documented, right? So we're going to add an icon button again, right? We're going to hit icon button, and under icon, we're going to put an icon.
So with this icon, we're going to put in another icon, right? Icons dot, let's say send, right? And let's do the on pressed again, parens, this, forgot a comma, let's save it. There we go, another action button. Let's say we wanted to do one more, right? So we can, let's say our design called for something like this, and then for something like one of those icons, right? You can hit save, and I'm looking around the camera. There you go. There's another one. I mean, I don't really know how much easier you want to make this. I can comment this out, right?
Now I don't have that. Now the title's off to the left. It just does all this stuff for you. I can't explain it any easier, but it follows the design system principles of Material UI, and based off of the things that you put in, it gives you out things that fit into the system, right? If it doesn't fit into the system, it'll freaking tell you very quickly that you messed up. So let's uncomment that. Let's take away one of these actions, clean it up a little bit, right? And let's hot reload. There we go. All right. So now that app bar that we just did, that's done, right? Okay. So now we got our leading, our actions, our title. Okay. So now after the app bar, now we got the meat and potatoes of the actual app. So what's going to happen underneath? And that just happens under body, right? So I could have just typed it in because I know, or I could hit Control Space. That'll give me everything. So I can outline everything between background color, background navigation, all that different stuff. I'm going to hit body. And under body, we are going to put something that scrolls, right? We want something to be overflowing. That way we can swipe. And with that, you use inside that Material widget library again, you use what's called a Listview. So we're going to hit Listview, and now we get that. Okay, great. Now what? Well, now you have all these other things that you could put under Listview. These are all the properties that you could attach to it. We're going to go down and add children.
So now, with an open bracket like you see here after children, what that essentially is giving you is an array, so you can have an unlimited amount of things underneath this thing, right? So if we want to have a bar with a little avatar, some action, right? Something that's very material-y. What we're going to do is we're going to use what's called a list tile. And this is, again, something that just comes from that material widget library. So let's use it. So essentially in that list tile, right, we're going to have let's say something called a title, right? And in that title, we're going to have text. And this could be obviously dynamic text if you're building an app, but we're just going to keep it very basic for right now. So let's say the title is 123 Main Street because we're building some sort of, I don't know, real estate app or something, right? And then let's say we also want a subtitle. Cool. So let's do that, and let's put the subtitle as Fort Lauderdale, Florida, because that's where we are, sunny Fort Lauderdale. And then let's say we want to put a little avatar at the beginning of it. So again, just like the app bar, we're going to look for something called leading. Great. All right, so now we want an avatar, right? Where do we go? You go into the library, you look for avatar, you find one called circle avatar, right? And then we're going to go in and we're going to say, okay, what kind of background color do we want? Well, we want that to be a colors gray, and let's say 200, right? I'm pulling all of this from that material UI colors library. Just go grab it. Okay, so now we have this circle avatar here. So now we need something to go inside the circle avatar. Just like others, it accepts a child. You can start to see a pattern here, right? So inside this, we'll put a text, and this would be dynamic. This would be initials. This could be an image. It could be a whole bunch of different things. We'll put my initials, just keep it simple, right? So now we have a leading property. We have a title, we have a subtitle, and now we need that little action thing on the end. Okay, so with that is what we're looking for, trailing. So we have leading, trailing. So inside that, again, accepts a widget. Again, we're seeing some similarities here. So with that, we're going to do icons, and we're going to go to the right? We're going to keep one, and again, we need to do the on pressed because it's an icon button, right? So now we have a leading avatar, we have a title, we have a subtitle, we have a trailing action. So let's take a look. Let's hot reload that, see what it looks like, and there we go, right? We have our first list item. So now we're going to take this list tile and let's duplicate it a bunch of times, right? So we can get, so we can get a list of things. There's 4, there's 6, there's 8, there's 10, there's 12, there's 20, 16, okay. There we go, okay. So we'll alter that and let's hot reload. And just like that, now we have a working app with a list of things that you can scroll through. It's just that easy. So the fact that we put these list tiles inside of the list view of the scaffold of the body, it's going to scroll, and it knows that the app bar stays at the top. It knows that things scroll underneath it. It kind of understands all those things because we built it in a scaffold. So after the body, we could have a whole bunch of different things. We could add in all these different types of stuff, but we did say that we wanted a floating action button. So that's one thing we are going to put in there. So with that floating action button, this is a placeholder for something to float above the list view, right? So with that, we're just naturally going to put a floating action button there. So with this floating action button, we can do all sorts of things, one of them being on pressed. So we'll make sure we get that out of the way. And now we need to say, all right, what do you want to be inside this button, right? So we're going to say the same thing, just like a child. And instead, we're going to put icon, and we're going to put this add icon in there, plus sign, right? So we're going to add a new record here. So let's hot reload that, and boom, there we go. Floating action button's done in about 1, 2, 3. Yeah, if you condensed it, maybe 3 lines of code. Super, super, super easy. So if you said, yeah, Brian, that's great, but I want my floating action button right in the middle. Say no more, because inside the scaffold, you have a floating action button location. So with that, we're going to say, well, the floating action button location hit the period, and you get all the options there. And we're going to choose center float, hot reload, and it whistles right on over to the middle. One more thing on this floating action button. Let's say instead of a plus, I wanted to do a plus and then something that said add new, right? I can go in there, I can create this as an extended floating action button. And with that, it has a couple different properties. So one we need to define is an icon on this, and then also you need to put a label. So with that label, I'm going to put just some text that says add new. And those are the 3 required fields on an extended button. Again, save. There we go. Just like that, we get this really customized floating action button on the bottom. So that's it. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you in terms of design, in terms of Flutter, in terms of getting something up quickly, easily. Last thing before we go, up here at the top where we defined that this is a material app, we have a theme. This is where you're going to put in, you're going to start to theme out all of your widgets to make them your own, make them your brand, all that type of good stuff. And when you pull in what's called theme data, and just super easily, I can just come in, put a period after, now I get a whole bunch of more options, right? And I can just say, hey, you know what? This theme's dark. I want to start with a dark theme. And then I'm going to override everything after that. So if I hot reload, I go from a Google theme to a dark Google theme, just like that, with 4 presses on the keyboard. Really super easy.